Welcome to my channel, Unsettling Stories. Just like every day, I am here to share a new terrifying story sent by one of our subscribers.
So, let's listen to the "I saw God and lived" in their own words. But before we start, make sure to turn off your lights and close your doors.
Let's begin.
Since finally being diagnosed with schizophrenia last year at the age of 18, I've been navigating the challenging and often frustrating process of finding the right treatment. It's been a journey marked by trial and error, as each new medication brings its own set of potential benefits and side effects. Some medications seem promising at first but then fall short, while others might alleviate certain symptoms but introduce new challenges. It's a constant balancing act, working closely with my psychiatrist to adjust dosages and try different combinations.
I understand this process needs patience and understanding, but it's overall just been difficult. I've had my share of auditory and visual hallucinations. Even being in psychosis and having to go to a psychiatric center twice. Kempsville Center for Behavioral Health. I had voices telling me to hurt myself and others, visual hallucinations that related to my trauma or something entirely different. I'd have to dive into everything if anyone cared, but I'll dive into my craziest hallucination. Keep in mind, I'm not very religious at all. I believe God exists, but I don't worship God. July 13, 2023. I was alone in my quiet, dimly lit room. I sat hunched over my computer screen, engrossed in one of my new favorite games, Resident Evil 4 Remake. The soft glow from the lamp behind me was the only source of light in the room. My breathing was steady, I felt calm and relaxed. The lamp's light cast my silhouette onto the wall in front of me, a shadow mirroring my seated position. On the wall was a cross, hung in the middle to hover above the ground. At first, everything seemed perfectly normal. But then, in my line of sight, I noticed something that made my eyes jump. My shadow, which had mimicked my every move, began to shift independently. Slowly, it rose from a seated position to a standing one, as if it had a will of its own. My breath caught in my throat, and a cold sweat broke out across my skin. The room seemed to shrink around me, the familiar walls closing in as the impossible unfolded before my eyes. My mind raced and I felt the unsettling grip of fear tightening around my chest. The vision appeared suddenly, overwhelming in its intensity. There, before my eyes, stood a figure that seemed both human and ethereal, radiating a blinding light that filled the space with an otherworldly glow. It was God, or at least, that was the horrifying perception. Its body was pale white, with skin and bones. Like I was looking at a body with no muscles or flesh. Its skeleton was abnormal, the ribcage too enlarged for its body. Only pale skin sheeting its bones. The hands were big and long, with pitch-black nails. It was tall, and I examined its face last. It was horrifying, otherworldly, haunting. The teeth were painted white, its mouth dripping in this black saliva. The mouth itself was enlarged. Almost a forced smile. I searched more in those eyes. Deep and unyielding. It looked at me as if it was looking directly into my soul. I felt unreal. As if every other emotion was drained from my body and the only emotion I was holding onto was fear. It was like I couldn't move or produce a single sound from my vocal cords. I had never picked up a Bible, only gleaning bits and pieces of scriptures from various sources over the years. Yet, one verse had always stuck with me. Exodus chapter 33 verse 20. He, God, said, "You cannot see my face, for man shall not see me and live." As the horrifying visage of God appeared before me, those words echoed in my mind, and a chilling realization gripped me. The face was both majestic and terrifying, an ethereal presence that seemed to strip away the very essence of my being. I felt as though my soul was being wrenched from my body, the overwhelming fear that I was about to die tightening its hold on my heart. Every instinct screamed that this vision was a prelude to my end, and I was left paralyzed, unable to tear my eyes away from the divine and dreadful countenance that had invaded my reality. There was nothing and everything in those eyes. In my mind right now, I can picture those eyes.
If I could draw, I'd show how frightening it really was. It felt as if time flew by while this was happening to me.
Then for a second, I finally moved and I fell out of my chair.
The cross that hung on the wall was in my hands.
Till today, I don't remember yanking the cross or putting it in my hands.
I have no memory of that.
I looked back at the wall in front of me and the being vanished out of my line of sight. The room circled back to where everything was and my shadow was once again mimicking my movements. I had begun to question everything.
My reality, my life, my mind.
I curled up in a ball and started crying. I had hoped it was just a nightmare that could have been the result of me passing out in my chair or another hallucination due to my schizophrenia. I don't know. If you ask me now, part of me believes it was a hallucination. Another part of me believes it to be real.
That could be due to my delusional thinking, but I am not sure.
All I know is that I had to move out of the house that I was staying at where my grandmother lived and stay at my aunt's. I will never crowd myself near anything related to it. I will never look at the skies or the heavens the same way again. I was so scared that I never discussed this with anyone around that time. I don't have any friends to talk about this with. I don't communicate with anyone except for my mother and my psychiatrist. But yeah, that's it, I finally talked about this publicly.
If anyone has any questions for me, or any coping mechanisms to deal with hallucinations, feel free to tell me.
I've always just frozen up and let these things happen.
Either way, thank you for your time.
Friends, if you enjoyed this story, please subscribe to my channel, like, comment, and share it with your friends.
Help us on this journey and support us so I can bring more great stories for you.
Until the next video, take care.